Hi, friends. It's Lisa Hetrick, illustrator for Gina K Designs, and I'm so grateful you could join me today. Okay, we are easing into 2022 with some really simple washy watercolor cards. So, here is the inspiration for today's card. I did have a different card that I was going to share with you guys today, but I decided I wanted to do something simple and easygoing. Here is that card that I was going to share with you today, but I'm really loving this basket weave cover plate die, and I wanted to adapt that to something a little bit more washy. So if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I love washy watercolor. So I thought we'd ease into 2022 by doing a fun card. Okay, so here's a quick look at the supplies. I have everything listed below. I'm using several different stamp sets and dies, my Seasons of Peace stamp set. Again, all of the supplies are listed below in the description. I'm also sharing here how in my Season of Peace stamp set, you have the opportunity to get 2 of the magnolia blooms because there are 2 dies for you to be able to cut that out. And yeah, I've got some Gina K Designs ink and the embossing ink. I've got some watercolor paper here, and I also have some of the shortcut cardstock in black onyx from Gina K. This is some Canon watercolor paper, super simple, easy to get watercolor paper. Again, all the supplies are listed down below in the description. I've got all of the different tools and some clear emboss powder. Now, I'm using this watercolor set from Paul Rubens, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's a really unique, fun find, and I love it. So, okay, let's dive in. First, we're going to start with the basket weave background. Now, I have this Paul Rubens watercolor set. This is a set of 12. The link is below in the description. It's a new to me watercolor, but it is super vibrant and artist grade, really high quality watercolor for a really affordable price. So I'm digging it, been using it for a couple months now, and now I'm sharing it. Okay, so I'm using the dioxazine purple, and I'm mixing up some ultramarine blue here. And I've got a big wet washy brush, and I'm just doing a washy background on this Canon watercolor cardstock. So the Canon cardstock watercolor paper is cold press paper. It's 140 pound, but it is a wood pulp paper. So normally I use 100% cotton, but I think for this card, this paper is just fine. I really just want to play around with this washy background. You can see how vibrant these colors are. And I'm just going to go ahead. I set that off to the side to let that dry for a bit. So I've got the large magnolia flower from the Season of Peace stamp set. This is my recent release with Gina K Designs. And I'm just inking it up with some embossing ink. And I'm going to go ahead and put some clear emboss powder on that piece. I've got my clear emboss powder here. And you can see inside here is my little that little sandbag thing that you're supposed to use first. Well, clearly I forgot to do that, and I tend to forget to do that all the time when I'm embossing. But you can see that I'm just adding some clear emboss powder here. I'm going to go ahead and heat set that, and I heat set both things. So I just went ahead and embossed the magnolia flower, and I also just added a little bit of heat to dry up that background. So I'm grabbing the coordinating die for the magnolia, and I'm going to run the coordinating die and the basket weave cover plate. I'm going to run them through my Platinum 6 die cutter, and I'm loving the way this looks. Look at that watercolor background. Now, I'm not going to punch out all of the die cut pieces. I want to have a little bit of contrast here. I want to have that look of like the embossed look over on the right and just punch out some of the elements on the left. Now, I found that they don't really fall out. They're in there and they're kind of tight. So you're able to do this technique of half and half pretty easily. And I also die cut out the magnolia flower. And we're going to just dive in here with some washy watercolor on that embossed flower. Now you can see that the watercolor is resisting a little bit around the embossed areas, and that's exactly what I wanted it to do. I get that washy watercolor look. The watercolor is going into the wells, so to speak, of the embossed areas. You can see it's just kind of hanging in the petals. Now, I have found that this is a great way to get a big splash of watercolor and that washy look and feel without spending a lot of time painting each individual petal like you would for no line watercoloring. So I've gotten this really super wet. I've got a thirsty brush here. It's really big, honking number 10 brush. And I'm just going back and forth between using the orange, the magenta, and the lemon yellow, and just kind of mixing them together, letting the water and the watercolor flow and wash together. I'm dabbing off just a little bit of the excess, and I'm just going to go ahead and let this dry. I'm loving this color. It's so fun, super washy, and just really fun. Now, one of the things I wanted to share with you about watercolor is that it looks super vibrant when you first start to paint. And these paints are really vibrant. But when it does dry, it does fade back a bit. And that happens with pretty much every watercolor brand that's out there. But what I really liked about these Paul Rubens is their vibrancy. And these paints are predominantly single pigment. So that means they only have one pigment in them, and they're super vibrant and transparent. Just everything I love about watercolor: transparency and vibrancy, and a really good affordable value for an artist grade paint. Just loving it. So you're going to see me using them more. Everything is dry and ready to go. I've got my 2 focal pieces for the card. I'm just going to get started on assembling the card, and I'm going to layer that beautiful washy magnolia bloom over top of that basket cover plate die image. So love. So I am just adding a little bit of Connect glue to the back of the watercolor piece here, and I'm just kind of turning that around because I want that open face area to be on the left. The magnolia is going to cover the right area, a big portion of the right area. So we've got that nice contrast between that black onyx paper showing through the bottom, and we've got that washy purple and ultramarine blue over there on the right. And I just love the way this is looking. I've got some peeps of little glue dots, but they're going to dry clear, so I'm not really that worried about them on my card here. But I just love in the way this cover plate die looks on the back. It makes for a super splash of a background, really easy going without a lot of height. Now I'm taking the hello stamp from the Broken Arrow set from Beth's new set. And I just love the way the little swirly on the end of each letter. And I think it just works perfectly with this die from the Master Layouts die set. So now it's time to assemble the card. I'm just putting a little bit of foam tape on the back of that magnolia, and I'm just kind of positioning it in that middle to upper third, and I'm letting it hang off the card just a smidge, and that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and nest that hello sentiment right underneath the flower. So I'm just going to have to trim it just a little bit so that I can nest it. And that little swirl on the O is going to just go right into the petal. And it's just going to look so So good, so good. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back here and go ahead and pop that sentiment in underneath that magnolia flower. And I'm lining it up. You can see I'm just kind of letting that little swirl go right into that little corner spot right there in the bloom. Yeah, love that. Just love that symmetry there. We've got a lot going on here. I really wanted to, I thought the card was finished, but I just wanted to add a few more little blingies. So I'm just popping a few dots of Connect glue, and I'm adding some of the sequins in here. And again, these sequins and all the supplies are listed down below in the description. Just adding a little tiny bit of bling just to make it a little pop of color. The card is really bright and colorful, but this little bling just kind of gives it a little more life. Now, here is the sample card over on the right, and where I did the 3 smaller blooms in the Season of Peace stamp set. And then here's the final card with the big honkin' magnolia bloom. Look at the vibrancy of that watercolor. And this is such a super, super simple card, but it looks like I spent a lot of time. And I love that cover plate die. We've got lines going in different directions to create some visual interest and contrast in the card. And it's just a really simple card that came together super quickly. Okay, as always, I've got a Seasons of Peace card idea sheet for you. It's a free download with 8 card ideas, but I've got a little something special for you this month as well. Tons of ideas here. The link for the download is in the description. And yes, super fun. This is just, I'm just excited. I also have a page 2 and a 3 to this month's giveaway. I've got using some Seasons of Peace card ideas using the bonus greenery pattern paper download. I've created some patterned paper with the elements in the stamp set in a wintry-like look using that wisteria-like color, which is the color of the year coming up in 2022. I've created some card layer bases with the 2 patterns, and I've also created some circle elements that fit in the stitch circle die and the other circle die, the regular circle die in the Master Layouts 8 die set. So this is just a little added benefit for you this month, just a little extra love, little gift of grace from me to you in this month's free download. So that link is down in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Please consider sharing the joy by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. And I'm sharing more card and watercolor tutorial videos for your inspiration right here. So come on in and take a peek at my tutorials. I have a lot to share, and I'll see you next time.